We have learned about the estimators. We have learned which type of estimators are there. We have two type of estimators as points estimator and the interval estimator. And if you remember what we have learned, that point estimation means we are getting a single value, and interval estimation means we are getting a range. Correct? Then we have learned the properties of the estimators, that if we are talking about a good estimator, then it must be unbiased, efficient, sufficient, and consistency. So today we are going to cover all these four properties. In details, we have to learn the first one, unbiasedness, in which we are actually working with the numericals. We have already started with. Correct? And these are the definitions that we have elaborated. That unbiasedness means when the expected value of estimator is equal to the parameter. Correct? Means whatever the statistic we are taking, the expected value of that statistic is equal to the parameter value. The estimator is known to be efficient if it has the smallest standard error. We have already discussed about standard error. Standard error means the standard deviation of the sampling distribution of the mean, that we have seen what it is. Similarly, if you are talking about a efficient one, then the next property is sufficiency. An estimator is sufficient if it is used all the sample information, that we'll see today how some examples could be quoted. And then after consistency, an estimator is consistent as the sample size is increasing, its value is approaching the parameter of the population. So these are the properties that could hold by the estimator in order to be a good estimator. Then we have started with the unbiasedness, that an estimator is said to be an unbiased estimator of parameter theta when the expected value of the particular estimator is equal to the parameter of population. E of theta cap is equal to E of theta cap is equal to theta, where theta represents population parameter and theta cap is an estimate. Obviously, estimate is coming from the sample. Correct. So first example we have gone for. If any doubts you have, you can ask me. What we have done is we have proved that the sample mean is an estimator, or you can say an unbiased estimator of the population mean. So we have taken different samples, we have calculated their mean. From the means, we have calculated the mean of mean and showed that E of x bar is actually equal to mu. Right? So this is what we have done with. Today we are going to take another example, so be sure to go through it, because the third example based upon this is also using the same concept that we are going to use here. What the thing is, here we are saying we have to show. Now the question is coming from show. Show that summation of xi minus x bar square by n, the sample variance, is biased estimator of sigma square. Now the first thing is we must be aware of what this formula is all about and what is the sigma square. Anyone can let me know what is this formula? I think if we just read the question carefully, we'll come to know we are talking about the sample variance. Isn't it? We have written show that this formula, the sample variance, is biased estimator of sigma square. And what is sigma square? Sigma square is also the variance, and here we are talking about the variance of population. Correct? We have seen what is the sample symbols we have to use, what are the symbols to be used for the population. So if you're talking about the population, we have sigma square as the variance. And if we talk about the formula, if we have studied the variance formula, then this is the formula, that the difference of, I think it's xi minus x bar should be there. Or you can make it correct also. You have to show that xi minus x bar square by n, the sample variance, is biased estimator of variance population. Correct? This is what we are looking for. So how we are going to start with, we have taken again that let x1, x2 up to xn are n random samples. Whenever we are working with the sampling now, what we are going to do, we are going to take some samples from the population. So here we are saying let x1, x2 up to xn are n random samples taken from the population with mean x bar. So what is the formula? Here we can see what we are working for. We are going to show, if we are write down what we have to show? I have to show that the expected value of summation xi minus x bar square, if I take the expected value of this square divided by n, then it is not coming as sigma square, because if it is unbiased, I have to show it is equal to sigma square. If it is not so, it means it's not a unbiased estimator. So we have to take this statement, and when we are showing it is unbiased, then for unbiasedness both should be same. If it is biased, it means they are not same. So I have to calculate this value, and I have to compare this value with sigma square. Correct? This is what we are looking for. So let's start with, and here in order to calculate, we have started with the numerator part, because in the denominator part, if we talk with how we can write it down, I can write down this whole as 1 by n, because we know constant can come outside when we are talking about the expectation. So it can be written as expected value of summation x minus x bar square by n can be written as 1 by n, and internally what we have expected value of summation xi minus x bar square whole square, like this. Is it? So let me end the show to save this. I'm keeping this so that it will be there, because I have not written this as such. So this is what we have. Correct. So here we are saying that in order to show that this formula is a sample variance, is a biased estimator of sigma square. So what I have to show that if I take the expected value of this formula, then it is not same as sigma square. This is one thing. And in order to show it, what I'm going to do, I'm going to write it down as 1 by n, and this expected value of summation xi minus x bar whole square. I think this is the first step, which is clear. Correct. After that, if we say how we are going to work on it, so here we have taken, then let us calculate expected value of this summation in between which we have the square. So if we use the formula, see what we have done. We have opened the square, written as a square means xa square plus b square x bar square here, minus twice of xi x bar square, sorry, xi into x bar. So this is, we have opened this square formula and written over here. This is the expected value of this expression, can be written as expected value of this whole expression. It is just we have opened the formula of square. And if I again rewrite it, the summation was coming outside it. So we have taken it inside. Wherever xi is there and summation outside, it means we can take it along with to frame summation of that particular expression. So if I take this summation, open it internally, but I will get a summation of xi square. Here you can see we have 2x bar. So 2x bar is not coming with summation. We have written here into summation of xi. So here we have summation coming along with xi, and then again we have summation, but summation is along with x bar square. Again you can see xi is not here. So we can write down this as summation of 1 also. Are you getting me why we are saying? Because whenever we are taking summation of the same thing n times, so what will it gives me? It gives me n into something. Means if I am adding, suppose I am adding 3 2 times, so it will give me 3 plus 3, like this. If I am talking about ai, so it will give me a1 plus a2 plus a3, like this. So here we have the summation of x bar square, and since we have n samples, so how many times it will go? It will go n times. Okay. So here we have the first term as such, summation xi square, this as such. For the second term, if we see, it is 2 of x bar into summation of xi has been written as n into x bar. Why? Because we know what is the formula of mean. Mean is summation of xi divided by n. This is the formula of mean, sum of all values divided by n. So I can write down summation of xi as n into x bar. So here we have written n into x bar for the replacement of summation xi. So similarly, if we talk about the last term, here we have no xi. So here we have summation of x bar square. So we have written it as n into x bar square, means n times we are adding the same term. Correct? And if I simplify it, this second term will give me twice of n x bar square, which is a negative 1, and this is n of x bar square in positive 1. So if I simplify the two, this and first and second term, which we are getting as minus of 2n x bar square plus n of x bar square. So if I add these two, I will get minus of n x bar square. Correct? So what we are getting? We are getting summation of xi square minus n x bar square. Correct? So if I use the rule of expectation, how to find out the expected value? It is e of summation xi square. Now again, I'm going to take this inside because we have still opened the formula, simplified the values, and now if I take the expected value, it becomes summation of exi square minus n. This is a constant n, so it will come outside, and internally we have e of x bar square. Correct? So these are the terms what we are getting. Here we have xi square and this is x bar square. Done? Getting this? Because here we have different operations that we are using. So you must be attentive to what we are discussing and how we are proceeding it. If any doubts you have, ask me. Otherwise, we are going to continue with the simplification and the substitution to prove it. Is there anything to be discussed? So let me assume that you are getting it and we'll continue with the next. So here what we need now, we need the two values. We need the value of this e xi square and we need e of x bar square. Correct? So if we go for, we need this value. So what we are going to use it, we have to use the formula already known to us, that how we calculate variance. Variance of xi is e of xi square minus exi whole square. You remember this formula? We have already learned during the expected values. When we have calculated, we have used this formula. So what we need here is, we need here this value, e of xi square. Correct? So in order to calculate this, how we can write down? We can write down e of xi square is equal to variance of xi minus will be here. So if I take it here, it will become positive. So it becomes plus of exi whole square. And what is the symbol we have for variance? For variance, we have sigma square, and exi means we are talking about mu, mean. E of xi means mu and its whole square. So from here we are getting the value of expected value of xi square is sigma square plus mu square. Similarly, if we talk about x bar square, so we have expected value of x bar square is variance of xi bar plus expected value of xi bar square. The only difference we are getting is in the bar. Correct? So what is the variance of xi bar? Xi bar means mean. Variance of all this, as we have learned in the formula during the sampling, that if variance of the population is sigma, sigma square, we have actually learned there regarding standard deviation, that the standard error formula that we have learned is, the standard error is given by sigma by under root n, which is actually the mean of the the standard deviation of the sample mean. Okay. So here we have variance, so we are taking sigma square by n, the square of this thing that we have seen during the sampling notes, and this we have getting as again the same thing, either I am talking about the mean of sample or mean of population, both are actually the same. So here we have mu square. Correct? So this thing is giving me sigma square plus mu square, and if we take the bar, the mean of same, then it is giving me sigma square by n plus mu square. Now what the value we need, if we go back, then this is, was the last expression we have worked with, And if we substitute, now we have the value of xi square and x bar square. So if we substitute here, so this will give me the value of exa square is sigma square plus mu square from here, and this is minus of n e x bar square, which is sigma square by n plus mu square. And on simplification, if I open it, and we'll cancel out n to get sigma square, and it becomes minus of n sigma, mu square, correct? And if you open this summation of sigma square will give me n sigma square, summation of mu square will give me n mu square. So these mu squares are n mu squares are cancelling each other. So finally what we are getting the value of n minus 1 sigma square, correct? This is what we are getting as the value of this expected value. We have taken the numerator part. So if we consider the denominator part along with, so we can write on hence this expected value of xi minus x bar square by n. What will give me? Here we have n minus 1 sigma square. So if I take n along with this, it will lead me n minus 1 by n sigma square. Correct? So that is why we are saying that if we talk about the sample variance, then sample variance is not same as the population variance. And we are getting this relation. So hence we can say it is an biased estimator. Correct? And sometimes in some of the books you will see that we have given that prove that the sample variance is an unbiased estimator. So what is to be done there? If I take here we have given with this formula, so we are saying it is biased estimator, but here in place of this n, if I write down here n minus 1, if I write down here n minus 1, what will happen? I will get n minus 1 divided by n minus 1, and hence it will give me the value of only sigma square. So in that case, you can say that the sample variance is an unbiased estimator of the population variance. Correct? So both of the statements are true depending upon the formula. You have not to get confused regarding why we are saying sometimes it is biased estimator and some authors are saying it is unbiased estimator, because depending upon we are getting the different values, we are saying it is biased or unbiased. Correct? When we have in the formula, let me go back. In the formula, when we have been given with n, and what we have proved, we are getting that it is giving me the value of n minus 1 by n sigma square. Correct? So if in the formula n minus 1 is given, so I will get sigma square as such. Correct? So that is what's happening here. Hope so you're getting it. If any doubts you have, let me know. Let me revise what we have done. We have started with the squaring. Inside we have opened the formula, we have taken the summation inside, we have simplified it, then we have calculated the expected value of xi square and x bar square, substituted over here, simplified them. Means every time what we are actually doing is we are using all the properties of the expectation and how we are dealing with it depending upon the summation. Correct? One more thing that we have done is we have used the formula for the variance of the sample. When we have done the sampling distribution of the mean, then we got there the value sigma by the root n, that is also being used here. Correct? So this is what we have done. So let's move on to the next example. This snapshot I have taken from your own book. Actually, when we have made some notes regarding this MLE, then your next topic or this. We have done very simply regarding the different books we have concerned, and we have prepared the simple notes so that student can practice that. And if we are going through the book that I have uploaded as an ebook, so it has a lot of concepts and which is not feasible here to discuss. Correct? So I am taking only the simple concepts that can make a base, and then after if you will practice, you can go through any of the high level examples. Correct? So here we have the next example. We have been provided with x1, x2, xn is a random sample from a normal population. We have been provided it that it makes a normal population from which we are taking the random sample. We have to show 1 by n summation I is equal to 1 to n xi square is an unbiased estimator of 1 plus mu square. We are talking with that this given value is an unbiased estimator of 1 plus mu square. So what we have to look, we have again to take the expected value of this expression and to show that it is equal to 1 plus mu square. This is what we have to go for. Correct? So if we go for here directly, how we can write down? Here it is given as t. So if we write down et is equal to expected value of 1 by n summation of xi square. Correct? It's 1 by n, summation will come outside. First 1 by n will come outside because of the property of being a constant. So we have written 1 by n. Then this summation will also be taken care of. This expectation can go inside. We know if we have x plus y expectation, it can be written as ex plus ey. Correct? So we have taken care of that property. So if we open it, it can be written as I1 to n e of xi square. Correct? Now what is this e of xi square? Just now we have calculated here. This is the same thing. E of xi square is, from here if you understood what we have done, we have calculated the variance formula, and we are saying e of xi can be written as variance of xi plus exi whole square. Variance is represented by sigma square and exi means mu, the population mean. So from here we got sigma square plus mu square. So the same thing if I use here sigma square plus mu square. So what we have, it is a normal population with standard deviation 1 and mean mu. We remember now what is the notation we have used for standard, mu comma sigma square. And this is how we represent the standard normal distribution. If it is standard normal distribution, we have taken 0 comma 1. So here we have sigma square as it is. So we can say what is sigma value? Sigma is 1. So just we have substituted here. What we are getting over there is we are getting sigma square plus mu square. So if sigma is 1, we are getting this value as here 1 plus mu square. And if I open this summation, I is going from 1 to n. So what will happen with 1? If I open the summation, it will become n. And what will happen with mu? It becomes n of mu square. And outside what we have? Outside we are having 1 by n. So this n will cancel out the internal n coming because of this summation. And this will give me 1 plus mu square. So this is what we are getting the values. Correct? So that was the theory part regarding the estimators. Now we are going to deal with the numericals. So if any doubt you have, again I am pausing. If any doubts you are getting, let me know. So let me start with the next thing, the numericals. Here very simple numericals are there regarding the point estimation or interval estimation. In interval estimation, you have something to do with the formula and the value of the z that we will learn. Here, if we talk about the point estimation, so it is very simple. Just you have to see whatever the things are given over there, and based upon that, you have to work. So let's read on the question of this type. Here we are saying a homeowner randomly selected 64 homes similar to her own and find that the average selling price is 252,000 with a standard deviation of 15,000. We have been provided with the mean and the standard deviation of population. Correct? What we are saying estimate the average selling price for all similar homes in the city. The homeowner have taken 64 homes and calculated some value. It means might be there are a lot of homes in the city as per his home, but what the owner has done, he has selected only 64 homes, means it is a sample of 64 out of the all. And if he has calculated, he is getting the average selling price this x bar, because this belongs to the sample. So this is the x bar and this is the standard deviation. Correct? What we are saying, we have to estimate the average selling price for all similar homes in the city. Means with the help of this x bar, we are saying you have to estimate the average selling price of all similar homes. Means we are going to estimate the population mean mu. Correct? So what it will be? We know the formula that the point estimation of mu is x bar. Correct? Both are actually the same thing. So nothing is to be done. It is the same answer we have, that if we have some samples and from sample we are getting the average value, so it will be the same as for the population, and that we have seen through the example also. So here the answer is same as x bar. Okay, so this is all about the point estimation. So let's see the next one. Here what we have, a quality control technician wants to estimate the proportion of soda cans that are underfilled. Means we are looking for that how many soda cans are underfilled, means less than the normal one. So what he has done, he randomly select 200 cans of soda and find 10 underfilled can. He has taken a sample of 200 and out of which 210 were unfilled. So we are looking for what is the point estimation of the proportion. So here we have total number of values, or the sample size is 200, and the proportion of underfilled cans, if we have to calculate, then the point estimator is given by p cap, which is equal to x by n. X means the number of underfilled cans in this sample, which are 10, so the proportion is 10 by 200. Proportion is actually having the same meaning as we use in the proportion of something is going on, it is given by x by n. That the point estimation of P, the proportion of the population, is same as that of sample. It means we are not going through the whole population. Might be there are thousands of soda cans being manufactured by the company, but when we are saying that in 200 cans, 10 are unfilled, so we have actually estimated that might be 0.05 is the value of the underfilled can in the whole population. Correct? We have taken something for the sample, but from the sample we are estimating something for the population. Correct? So this is how we are estimating. So this was the yesterday's slide, the PPT that we have covered till now. So if you have some doubts, ask me. Otherwise, we are going to start with the today's lecture, in which we have more of the theory part, and this will complete the estimator properties. Till now we have done only the unbiasedness, and now we are going to have sufficiency, consistency, and efficiency. Three more properties are to be dealt, and all are in just in theory. After that, we are going to start the topic of MLE, the maximum likelihood estimators, tomorrow. So should we start? Let me continue, and be sure to ask the doubts on LPU Live if you are getting. You can code the PPT slide. You can send me a snapshot wherever doubts you have, and we can discuss over there. Right? We are going to start with the efficient estimator. For that, we must know what is the meaning of the efficiency. If I talk about the English word efficient, so normally we call as that yes, you are very efficient. No, the teacher is very efficient. The students are very efficient. Efficient means they are taking all the things into consideration and doing maximum work. It's whatever the possibility is there of the particular thing, they are doing whole of it. Correct? So it is the same thing we are working in the stats, that an efficient procedure produce result that maximize use of material, time and energy. You will use less energy if you have sample size which are small. And here we talk about the efficiency means any procedure that we are going to adopt to optimize the output. Okay? Means whenever we are saying that let's talk about some procedure, which one is efficient. So efficient one is that procedure which is utilizing less source and producing more output. Correct? It can be in terms of money, in terms of time, in terms of some results. So this is the English meaning of the efficiency. Here if we talk about an efficient estimator and the mathematical statistical definition, so what we can say, an estimator is a statistic. Here I think the efficient word is not there. Let me wait. Okay. Here I think we have started with the estimator. Okay, let's me continue. Here we are saying an estimator is a statistic that estimates some fact about the population that we know. And for example, here we know that the sample mean is an estimator of the population means. And what we have learned till now that it is actually the unbiased estimator. The E of x bar is equal to mu. If we talk about finding out the x bar, so we know there are various ways in which we can find out the mean of the population. How? We can take the different sample sizes, we can take the different criterias, or we can take the different sampling techniques. Already we have discussed about the random sampling, and we have already learned that there are various random techniques, and one of them is random sampling that we are going to take. Correct? So if we have calculated the different estimators and we are estimating some population parameter, then an efficient estimator is one that has small variance. This is the definition that you have to learn. But we are saying that if for a particular sample we are getting a value, and we have taken a lot of samples to estimate particular thing of a population, then out of that the efficient estimator is one that has small variance. Correct? So this is the definition of the efficient estimator that we have to learn for. Here we have an example that let theta 1 cap and theta 2 cap are the two estimators of the parameter theta. Here we have spelling typo mistake. Here we are saying that suppose we are estimating parameter theta, and for that we have taken two different estimators. Now again what we have learned in the last slide is that a lot of ways are there to estimate something, that we have already discussed some of the type of examples, that if I am estimating the height of graduate students in a class or in LPU, then might be I am going to 10 classes, I am going to 20 classes, or I have selected some of my favorite students. So depending upon that, might be I am getting the different values of the height. Correct? So what I will do, I have suppose collected the different estimates, then I will calculate their variances. Because what is variance? Variance tell me how much difference is there between the mean and the values. If we have seen the formula just now, what we have done, summation of xi minus x bar square divided by n. So we, for variance, tell me how much different the values are from their mean. So if we have the different estimate, I have to present my work. So what I will first find out, I will find out which estimate is the better one as compared to the other one. So what I will do, I will find out the variances and compare that the estimator with the less variance. Less variance means the values has less variation between them. So that one is an efficient estimator to be presented. Correct? Here what we are talking about, here we are saying that if we have theta 1 cap and theta 2 cap are the two estimators of theta, and if theta 1 cap has small variance and is biased, it means expected value of theta 1 cap is not equal to theta. Might be possible, na? We have an estimator, it has a small variance but is biased, and if we talk about the another estimate, theta 2 cap, it is not biased, it is unbiased, but it has a large variance. So which one should I prefer? I have to prefer the one which has the small variance, because biasness doesn't matter more as compared to the variance. Correct? So this point you have to note down, that whenever something is given to you regarding other parameters and the variances, so always we have to take an estimator having the small variance other than whatever the facts are being noted down there. It is sufficient, consistent, or unbiased or biased, doesn't matter more. The main important thing that we have to concentrate is the variance should be less of a particular estimator as compared to the other one. Then it will become an efficient estimator. Getting it? Okay. So this is the definition of efficient estimator. Now the next we have is sufficient estimator. So the words are looking similar, but it is different from efficiency. We are talking about sufficient. But the definitions, let's read it out. An estimator is sufficient if it makes so much use of the information in the sample that no other estimator could extract from the sample additional information about the population parameter being estimated. Correct? This is the mathematical language we have used. If I talk about in my own language, then what we can say, an estimator is sufficient one which is using all the data, all the information that is being collected by a surveyor. Correct? If I have collected the data of 200 students and I'm estimating the data, estimating the average, right? Then I have to use that estimator that will use each and every value collected by me. And if along with that I have calculated some other additional information, that should also be taken care of. Correct? So whatever I am estimating has to be looked upon. What are the scenarios for which I have collected, for which I am analyzing, and then so we will find out the sufficient estimator. Suppose just I thought for an example of heights as we are looking for, that suppose in LPO we are collecting the data now of the students of graduate studies, and though we are measuring their heights, you know. So if we talk about the one thing, that what we can do, we are saying average. It means what we are doing is, suppose I am taking 200 students. So what I am doing, I am finding out the mean. Mean is normally known as average. So if I calculate the mean of the students, so obviously what it is a sufficient estimator. Correct? And what else thing we can take care of here, because we are talking about additional information. Additional information that has to be included is, because in LPU we have the foreign student also, we have the Indian student also, and might be sometimes if we have seen, the Nigerian students have a very good height. You know, they are tall as compared to our Indians. It depends upon the scenario, the regions. So if we talk about that type of things, so that type of you can say categorization should also be done, and then we have to calculate the average. Correct? So whenever we are talking about the skewness, then skewness should be removed, and skewness is in other term we can talk about outliers. Correct? So let's see the examples. We are saying the sample mean is a sufficient estimator. You have also to remember, because very rare examples are there. In unbiasedness, there are a lot of things, lot of formulas, questions can be framed. But here, if we talk about other estimators, then we have to learn the definition along with the examples. Correct? So here, what we have example: the sample mean is a sufficient estimator for the population mean of a normal distribution with known variance. Once the sample mean is known, no further information can be obtained from the sample itself. Now, if we talk about what other estimators are possible, then obviously we have the median and mode, but we know median will not work here. It is not a sufficient estimator. Why? Because in median we will take care of the middle value. And if we talk about the mode talk about the maximum value, maximum frequency of a particular thing in a data. So whenever we are looking for the average type of thing and we want to include the whole data, then mean is working as a sufficient estimator. Correct? So this is the definition we have for the sufficient estimator. Now the last one we have is consistent estimator. This is all the theory, so be sure to go through it again and again. And as we have discussed, if we are working for the 10 marks question, the question can be framed either from the unbiased estimator to show something, or we can ask a particular estimator in detail, or might be possible somebody can ask you what are the properties of being a good estimator, and there you have to list out all these things which we have discussed along with the examples. Correct? So let's talk about consistent estimator and unbiased estimator. Now here what we are saying, we are not talking about an estimator, but we are saying an unbiased estimator. Let me underline this in order to focus upon this. An unbiased estimator is said to be consistent, means it has to be unbiased first. If it is unbiased first, we are looking for the consistency. An unbiased estimator is said to be consistent if the difference between the estimator and the target population parameter. Estimator means what we have calculated from the sample and a statistic, and the target population parameter becomes small. The difference between the two becomes small as we increase the sample size. And if you remember, we have learned that on increasing the sample size, whatever the distribution is, it's going to follow the normal distribution. You know? So what we are saying here, that an estimator which is unbiased, it is said to be consistent if the difference between estimator and the population parameter is going to be small and small and small as the sample size is going to be increased. That's why when we are doing some survey, it is being requested to take a size which should be at least more than 30. Below than 30 we are talking about, then it is not a normal distribution. That we are going to learn in the Z test and T test also, because this is the only difference there over. Correct? So here we have taken an example that unbiased estimator mu cap for the parameter mu. We can take theta cap and theta also, the same thing is there, is said to be consistent if, what is this? This is variance. It is just a style to be noted down, because different authors have different styles to note down the symbols. So here I have taken this V. So it is consistent if the variance approaches 0 as n tends to infinity. Here we are saying, because when you are talking about the difference, so actually what it is the difference between the two values. So here we are saying an unbiased estimator for the parameter mu will be consistent if the variance approaches 0 as n tends to infinity. Then it will be called a consistent estimator. And this we have already discussed, that being unbiased is a precondition for an estimator to be consistent. Correct? And here we have an example. The variance of the sample mean x bar is sigma square by n. Correct? And which decrease to 0 as we increase the sample size. That means if I write it down as sigma square by n, as n tends to infinity, what it will become? It tends to 0. So that's why we will say the sample mean is consistent estimator for mu. Means we are talking about the variance. This is the variance of the mean. So we are saying that and variance of sample mean is this, which tends to 0 as s tends to infinity. Hence, the sample mean is a consistent estimator for mu. So if we talk about mean we have learned is an unbiased estimator. It is also consistent estimator. It is also sufficient estimator. So we can say all the properties of an estimator lie in the mean. Mean is unbiased, consistent, efficient, as well as efficient estimator. Correct? So this is all about the estimator's properties. The 4 properties we have learned in details. We have learned some examples of unbiasedness, and all these concepts and the expectation concept will come into the picture when we are going to learn about the maximum likelihood estimators. And it's very important, again, as a second question, if I have to frame, then the topic will be from, obviously, MLE. Correct? So this is regarding today's lecture. Let's stop.